All right, there we go. So we're gonna get these primitives going, and we're gonna start on tick. Oh, There we go. Okay. There we go. And I have the other one disconnected. Okay. So you guys. Oh, there we go. The other one disconnected. Okay. So I'm hearing an echo right here. Where is it? All right. Let me see. I closed windows down. So let's see. I see what I did here. It. All right. Let me see. I closed windows down. So let's see. Nope. I'm hearing myself. I got some. There's some. There's something going on here. Actually, let me do this then. Let's do. All right, cool. Actually, let me do this then. Sorry, I'm using some browser in it. I don't know where my tab at from the other. I had another tab over from StreamYard, so it's kind of weird right now. All right, so we're going to stop. And I'm actually going to bring up some. Yeah, it's not responding. I'm having some technical stuff going on. So, ooh. See who's on. All right. Oh, there's a video I should watch since I'm here. There we go. Let's bring that back up. I actually want to see how this looks like. Let's see. There we go. Sorry, guys. 2x. I think I'm gonna gotta stop doing that. It's messing up my neck right there. There we go. All right. All right. Now let's try this again. So let me see. All right, cool. I don't hear myself anymore. So I'm gonna go ahead. Let's go add on. I'm gonna go ahead and add on. Where is that? Presets, share screen, and I'm not gonna have that. We're gonna have shift right here, and we're not going. It's gonna having some technical difficulties over here. Need to go see Deadpool. It's freaking hilarious. I've been seeing some clips of it. It's freaking hilarious. All right. So we have, I can, the heck, who's texting me? Ah, all right. My one of my co-workers. All right, cool. Let me go ahead. All right, so I'm going to minimize that because I see that screen right there. All right, Marco. All righty, so let's go ahead. And you guys are not going to see it on TikTok, but all right, let me go. But you're going to hear the sound of it. Where's the sound at, bro? Increase that on the Alexa right here.
Hey everyone, welcome to this activity. So in this activity, we're going to be learning about the basic forms that make up the human figure, the proportion of those.
I want to do some exercises before I.
We're going to build on the previous knowledge covered on the human skeleton. Sorry, Mike. And build out the human skeleton with the forms that we're talking about in this activity. You're then going to use that.
This is in the way.
To create rough sketch turnarounds of the human figure using basic primary forms. We're going to draw the front view out, the side view out, and the back view out of the human figure, built out of these simple forms. And the simple forms we're going to be using are things like spheres, cylinders, spheroids, as well as some other slightly more complex forms. Again, to start building out the structures that make up the human figure. With all that said, everyone, I look forward to working with you in this activity, and let's get started.
I don't know what I'm doing some stuff wrong right here. This Photoshop. Yeah, do some exercises real quick before I start the main thing. Primitives and forms, boy. All right, there we go. You guys not gonna see this on the tickety talk. All right.
Hey guys, welcome to this video where we're going to be discussing primary forms of the human figure, and specifically what we're going to define what primary forms are. That build off of primary forms. We're going to talk about silhouette and how it relates to.
So I did this yesterday. You got what happened? Okay, so I did this yesterday. So I'm working on this is week 1. I'm working on 1.2 of week 1, and I'm going to be doing the primitive stuff.
Right. These are the basic building blocks of more complex forms. And
so I'm just doing some warm-ups right here.
Look at the background right now and see what I'm talking about, right? The key to drawing and modeling.
Oh, by the way, TikTok, if you're hearing this, there's a video you can't see because I don't have a stream key for StreamYard for you guys, but it's all right. It's all good.
Based off of these structures. Everything that we do later on more complex, whether it's a crazy creature in a video game or your favorite character in a movie or some animated villain on a cartoon show, whatever it might be. It all comes back to these guys when we're designing those characters, building those characters. And a really important part of this is talking about cross-contour.
Cubes, cylinders, and shapes.
They will show which direction a form faces, and they are very similar to something you should be hopefully getting a little bit more comfortable with, which is edge flow. Right. So when we look at these 3D forms in Maya and we see edges running all over them, that's what cross-contour line work is.
Yep.
And on these forms, it will be a little simpler as you get into more complex secondary forms and tertiary forms, which we'll discuss here in a bit. Your cross-contour line work and your edge flow will also become more complex. So let's add a couple of more forms to this equation, right? And we're going to talk about spheroids and rectangular prisms. So spheres, like circles, are perfectly round. Cubes, like squares, are even on all sides. That's great, but life isn't perfect or even like that. The statistical probability of things ending up as perfect spheres is not very likely, right? So more often than not, what we tend to see are things like spheroids. Now, spheroids are things like you're seeing right here, right? Let's take a look at a couple of the real-life examples we're seeing on the right. That hot air balloon that's a little bit more bulbous and round on the top and a little bit thinner on the bottom.
Prisms, rectangulars.
That's kind of a spheroid. You may have
Spheroid,
had the inside of a spheroid for breakfast if you had some eggs today, right? Most fruit, right? When we think of fruit and we say it's spherical, an orange isn't really spherical. I mean, the apple's definitely not. And more often than not, any piece of fruit that you look at is probably not going to be quite a perfect sphere. Even things like the planets, right? We're looking at planet Earth there. And I talked about the fact that nature doesn't generally make perfect spheres. Our planet is actually referred to as an oblate spheroid, in that it's a little bit flatter at the poles, and it widens out a little bit at the equator, partially having to do with the fact that our planet is spinning, creating that effect where the force pulls out on the sides of it and squashes it on the top and the bottom. Kind of like if you spin a ball really hard, when you throw it, it might actually squash down a little bit. That's a physics thing that happens. Here, we can also see what that looks like when we start dealing with cross contour or edge flow. So it's important to start looking at this stuff, especially because there's a lot of forms on the human body as they start to become more complex that aren't going to be really perfect spheres. They're going to be more spheroids. And we're going to see that a bit as we keep working through this video. Now, we also have rectangular prisms. Now, this is basically taking your cube, right, and saying, well, I'm going to flatten the cube in a certain direction, or I'm going to extend it in another direction. And all of a sudden, it becomes rectangular on certain faces, or maybe on all faces.
I actually need to do some exercising tonight after this.
Rectilinear forms that are longer in certain directions, shorter in certain directions. And this is what you're generally used to seeing, right? If you really think about the world we live in, whether it's the doors in your house, or the shape of the room.
I remember now. Ha ha ha. It's been a while since I've been using Photoshop.
It is wide or long. Chances are it's not as long as it is wide. Hallways that you walk through. Those bleachers that you're seeing right now, pieces squared off chalk. All of this stuff is rectangular prisms. Your laptop screen, it might not be a perfect rectangular prism to be honest, but the brick charging your laptop, there you go. So look at the world around you for this stuff, because really, as you start building more complex things, whether we're dealing with characters or not, you do want to break it down into these simpler forms. So let's talk about exercises, and let's define them a little bit more. So we talked about primary forms a bit, and I mentioned secondary and tertiary forms. And these are some really nice visual examples. So with primary and secondary tertiary forms, we're basically working through levels of form detail with the fact that our larger forms and masses are primary forms. So if you look at the top left image, it's basically just a curved cylinder, right? Now, as you look at the secondary forms, those are the smaller forms that make up our primary forms. Now, there's a pretty big jump here between the primary form example of that curved cylinder and that secondary form example where all of a sudden we have pretty much all of the muscles of the arm in there, all the major muscles, right? We're going to halfway that a little bit. We're not going to go all the way to the muscles for this activity, but next week we're going to start dealing with those secondary forms in a little bit. And then finally we have surface level form details or tertiary forms. So if you look at that image on the bottom right, you're going to start seeing things
exercises,
like
boys.
You're going to start seeing skin wrinkling. You're even going to see breakups in each muscle where the individual parts of those muscles break up. For example, if you look at the shoulder muscles, or what we refer to as the deltoids.
I'll do a lot of circles.
That in that secondary
just a little bit of exercising.
They're one larger form, but as you move into the tertiary forms, all of a sudden there's a breakup in them because we're starting to break up the front head of the deltoid, the side head of the deltoid, and if you could see it, the back head of the deltoid as well. It's important to work from primary to tertiary forms. Guys, I cannot stress this enough. This is the workflow that anybody that deals with forms, whatever they do.
I didn't think about it as a workflow.
Or a character modeler, or an environment modeler, or a prop artist, whatever it might be, they work from primary to tertiary. Look, we all know that details are fun. But the fact of the matter is, if you have bad primary forms, it doesn't matter how much good tertiary forms you put on top of them, it's not going to work. In fact, I like to refer to it as polishing a turd, right?
Polishing.
You
what do you say?
Polish, and you can make it a shiny.
Polish a turd.
Details in the world, but in the end,
I'm gonna polish this turd. This is gonna be the best turd that you ever seen. I forgot. I think it's on South Park, Mr. Hanky. I think that's his name, the little turd on South Park, the old day South Park.
All right, so let's talk about primary forms a little bit more. Here we have two good visual examples of different levels of primary form
real
that
quick
we can get into. And it really is about large form information. In fact, I would even
definitely
say
like
that
method of.
is starting to get a little
you guys won't see it on here on TikTok, but
all the way detailed.
primary forms.
Is the larger form.
I'm gonna pause it real quick. So these primary forms, like I'm in Shane Olsen's character workshop, and this is basically like in ZBrush. That's what I'm working on here to practice these too. So this class, I'm taking this class is fundamentals of anatomy. So pretty much like when I started, I'm gonna tell you guys something. When I started like getting like I started doing gesture drawing and everything like that, and I got into like doing like the 3D understanding more of the 3D stuff is like, man, like it's like that contour lines or the lines, as you can see. Like I'm gonna give you guys an example. Let me go give you guys an example real quick right here. So usually we did a lot of like these type of shapes like this. And, you know, that's how you can like also like, you know, in a way you can draw from out of your head. But it's always from professional artists. They always say use reference. So I could just, and then you have like a sphere right here, right? So, or I can do like a little 3D sphere, and you get into like 3D like Maya or Blender. I use mostly Maya. You get these like these wireframes, and this is like kind of like giving it 3D shape in like drawing and stuff like that. So when I started understanding this, it's like, man, like I can understand drawing, dude. Like it's if you know how to draw, you can understand like the 3D stuff and how that stuff works. So then it has like, you know, and it has all these and polygons, which in Maya they have like you have n-gons and triangles. So these are like got the edges, then you have like the vectors. You know, then it, you know, you got 4 of these. But you guys don't know, poly means 4. This is like a, yeah. So this will be a poly. This will be a polygon within Maya or other 3D type of softwares. And you have, then it's like something with 3D points. You have a vector, which 2 vectors become an edge. That becomes an edge right there. Then you have this, which this will be a triangle. Which it could be, yeah, triangle, which polygon can come up with a triangle, which I think in games, that's what they do. They convert into triangles, if I'm correct on that. Let me know if anybody's a game developer or do games and stuff like that. And from, was it n-gons, it's 5 sides. So it'll be like let me just give it another example right here. So you have that, you have a polygon, and all of a sudden then you have like something like, actually, nah, I did it wrong right there. Let me go erase that. Let's do an E. I'm gonna erase that. So this will be an n-gon. So it has 5 sides, and there's no. This is usually bad, but I was watching a video of a other 3D artist. He said, depending on it depends on the model or what you're creating. You can get away with using n-gons and stuff like that. So it doesn't have to always be, you know, polygons, but it depends on the model. So it depends on the detail and everything. So I just wanted to mention that.
Form information and the primary form information that we're going to be dealing with in this activity.
So again, TikTok, you're not going to see this video that's playing in the background right now.
Cubes and cylinders like we're seeing on the top.
And my audio is probably boo-boo from the laptop right here, which I'm using the bit. Ooh, my bad, Mike. My bad, Zoe, listen. So I'm using this computer for StreamYard and my other platforms that I'm on. Let me see. We got, you guys not going to see stuff, which TikTok needs to get the stream key so I can start streaming on there too. And I'm on Rumble. Actually, I forgot I'm on Rumble too, man. We on live on Rumble too. So, yeah, buddy. And actually, I know what I need to start doing. But yeah, so that's what I want to talk about. Let me go press play on this. So, come here. There we go.
Get slightly more complex for advanced artists, like we're seeing on the bottom, right?
There we go.
Once you get more comfortable with anatomy, character proportions, character art, chances are you're going to shift what your thought is.
I did a lot of figure drawing.
We're seeing in that lower level as opposed to that upper level. That'll come with, again, more experience. We are going to be dealing with primary forms of this activity, and again, it's going to be those ones that you're seeing in that top image. So let's talk about the primary forms of the head. Now, this is a little more advanced than what we're going to be dealing with here, but we're going to touch on this later in the month, so let's get a little head start. For the head, The main things that we want to focus on is the separation between the cranium mass at the top, which is that sort of spherical mass that we're seeing at the top, and then the jaw mass or the mandible further down. You also have major forms like your temple, your brow area, your cheekbones, and then finally your eyes, nose, mouth, and ears. Now I want you to notice that in these drawings, they're all broken down into simple spheres, triangle shapes.
Y'all on TikTok, man, like the video, like, share, follow your man. Give me the HBO special. Y'all know what the HBO special is? HBO special is help a brother out special. Help a brother out, man. Help a brother out. Help a brother out. If you're on TikTok, wherever else, make sure you go ahead and subscribe and stuff, man. Let me see. Just help a brother out, man. Like, subscribe, share. Help a brother out, man. Just help a brother out. Okay, let's go. Okay.
Learning,
yeah,
proportions and just ways to rebuild a human.
I've been drawing a lot of heads recently.
We're not going to get this advanced right now. We're just going to be focusing on that rounded cranium mass.
Rounded cranium, okay.
Mandible or jaw mass coming down from it. Now, the other form we're going to talk about is the neck. And the neck is really just a tapered cylinder.
Again, cylinders, Maya.
Larger as it goes down. It's going to start at the base of the cranium. And I want you guys to notice that I drew the neck through the jaw. When we're dealing with these primary forms, they're probably going to be shoving them through each other, and that's okay. As we move into more advanced musculature, we will start to think about how those muscles interplay with each other, how they lay over each other.
Subdivisions.
So right now, just like I did with the neck there, shove these guys through.
I need to get better with my inking skills. Kind of sucks. I'm all like sloppy and stuff. It's all right. That's how gesture drawing works.
Collarbones on the front, and sort of the shoulder masses on the back. It's important to note that the neck is a little bit lower on the front side than on the back side. You really want to kind of make note of the sort of differences in levels as you move from the front of the body to the back of the body, or from one side of the body to the other. Again, it's wider at the bottom, narrower at the top. All right, let's move into the torso and the shoulders. So for the torso, we're going to be building off the ribcage and pelvis forms that we discussed previously.
Torso?
You can see I have them a little bit more spaced out, which is what you normally see on a female form. On a male, where we have taller rib cages and taller pelvises, those will get closer together. But the important thing to note here is you do want to get them close enough to each other that you can start pinching them in on the sides. Generally, we're going to be straighter on the sides for men. When we deal with women, we're going to get a little bit more of a pinch-in on the sides between the rib cage and the pelvis. And again, this has to do with the fact that women have more space between the rib cage and the pelvis, and women tend to have wider pelvises than men do. This has to do with just physiological, evolutionary things like childbirth, right? Men do not have to pass children through their birth canal. They don't have a birth canal. Women don't have to do that either. I would never put that on anyone, but they're the only ones that are physically capable of doing that.
Interesting.
By the way, I just want you to know, just like I mentioned with not everyone has to have children, this is all very generalized stuff, right? You have men with wider hips than their rib cages. You have women that have narrower pelvises, right? Body types change also depending on genetic factors.
I wonder if White Manga got his channel back.
It's important to note that whenever we're talking
go
about
ahead and
stuff,
check. Still dealing with foolishness, man.
And as you get more advanced,
White Manga, Apple Black.
That's when you
you might have to redo a whole channel, bro. That sucks, dude.
How you're going to deal with these proportions and these anatomical structures. Now, for the shoulders, I think of them as spheres attached to the shoulder line, right? They're essentially these spheres that are going to kind of intersect into the body. Again, you can see I drew them slightly through that upper torso area. They are going to jut out of the body as well. That being said, those shoulder masses attach to our collarbone, to our shoulder blades. So they are kind of this intermediary form between our arms and our torso, and in that they kind of exist in both. It's also important to note that the shoulder line can bend at the middle because of our collarbone. And you can do this right now. Shrug your shoulders up and down, and you're going to see that your collarbone lifts up. In fact, if you try and lift your arm up over your head, your collarbone, put your other hand on your collarbone, you'll feel it lift up while one collarbone doesn't. So you can see that you can shrug your shoulders independently of each other as well. All right, let's keep going. Talk about the arms and legs. So for these guys, we're going to be basically dealing with these in two ways. Here, I'm going to just refer to them sort of as secret cylinders. However, as we move forward, and as you saw in the image previously where we talked about the different primary forms we'd be dealing with, you can break them down this way, but you can also break them down into spheroids and cylinders as well. Right now, we're going to talk about things like it's important to understand the angle and the rotations of these guys. For now, we're going to be focused on viewing them from the front, the side, and the back. However, in another part of this activity where we're doing drawovers of reference, you're going to have to start thinking about how these cylinders rotate in space, and many times they're going to point towards you or away from you. And this is where we start dealing, again, with foreshortening, right? This is the stacking of forms in space.
Yeah, foreshortening.
It's the perspective of those forms. So you want to make sure that you're looking for that when we're doing drawing of these forms, especially with the arms and the legs that can really move around and rotate in different directions.
Let me bring up.
Let's talk about the hand forms really quickly. So the hands, the main mass of the palm of the hand is a curved rectangular prism. Now, for now, we probably don't have to deal with it that way. You can just think of it as a rectangular prism. It's going to be a little bit narrow at the wrist,
that's how it looks like on my
TikTok.
Okay.
And the mass of the fingers.
Hi, Winning Mitchell. That's my company right there.
The thumb pad mass is triangular.
What's up? What's up,
guys?
Come
out at a 45-degree angle from the hand, and it's important to note that the thumb itself has one less digit than the rest of your fingers. Don't worry about making these forms too complex as of right now. Honestly, you really want to think of the hand as sort of this basic mitt at this moment. Now, when we move into the feet is basically the main mass is this triangular wedge. It's going to be narrower at the ankle, and then as we move down the foot, it widens, but in both directions, lengthwise, widthwise. It's narrower at the back of the foot as well, and it will widen as it goes towards the toes. So your heel's narrower than the area that your toes are at. Again, it's narrower at the top, wider at the base.
Some feet right there.
It's important to know that the toes hinge at the ball of the foot. You can really think about, just take the foot, place it into a sock, right? That's about as complex as we're going to get. And here you can even break it down more simply and turn it into this sort of polygonal shape if you want to. It's also important to note that the toes curve back from the big toe to the little toe.
That's right.
Sometimes the second toe, our sort of index toe, will be longer than the big toe. But generally, from those two toes, we're going to curve back down as we move through our middle toe,
so
our
this way
ring
actually
toe,
it'd
and our
be
pinky toe. So make sure to look for that
big
change
like that
as well.
Okay.
That being said, if you don't feel comfortable with that yet and you want to just treat the toes flat, that's fine as well at this point. Now, let's talk about silhouette and what silhouette is. You've probably heard this term before. Silhouette is essentially when we remove interior details of a character, right? Or of anything for that matter, and we just focus on what the outside shape looks like.
So I'm just getting some exercises before we start.
What is the outside shape? Now, it's going to deal a lot with the relationship between positive and negative space. Positive space in these drawings being the black areas, negative space being the white areas, right? Positive space is areas that contain forms and masses. Negative space is the empty areas in between. And you generally, with characters, with
relationship between positive and negative space,
you want to have a nice interplay between this positive space and negative space. When you make effective character designs, they should be readable and unique in silhouette. A lot of times character designers will start in silhouette to ensure that they have a really good silhouette to work off of, and then they start thinking about form and details. As a really good example, if you've ever watched cartoons, that top right image is probably very recognizable to you. And I don't have to start naming characters in there for you to already say, hey, I know what that character is at the top left or the bottom right. You can see a smattering of Looney Tunes characters, Disney characters, Simpsons. If any of you were a fan of Nicktoons like myself, your childhood is there right now. Some Cartoon Network characters as well. There's a Mojo Jojo sneaking in there at the bottom right. And then even some classic cartoon characters like Popeye, Betty Boop. But again, I can tell every single one of those characters from silhouette because that's how important silhouette is to character design. Now, let's talk about silhouette and line of action. When we're dealing with figure drawing, we always want to start with that line of action.
Line of action. The drawing force.
Is going to lead to a dynamic pose.
The
That
droid
dynamic
force
should have generally a dynamic silhouette. So all of this stuff kind of ties together, guys. When we're dealing with character posing, that's also important.
Dynamic silhouette. Interesting.
You want to make sure that when you take this character that you've designed and worked on for, maybe a few weeks or months for that matter, and you say, all right, I'm going to finally show this character off. You want to make sure that you don't leave the character looking bland. You don't want the pose to feel like it let down all of that great artwork that you put together, right? So as we move to silhouette in 3D, this is what we need to think about. We need to think about the way that our viewer can interact with our character. The fact that our viewer is going to be able to look at
nice
our 3D
model
art from any angle.
Let me show y'all real quick.
Master that silhouette.
Well, I can't show y'all on TikTok,
angles,
but
right? So again, good silhouette means
man.
good pose, but you have to think about that silhouette from more than one angle when we move into 3D. In 3D, we really have to think about things in that 3D world because that's how our viewers generally going to interact with it.
This looks like.
By the way, these sculptures are from a website called sideshow.com. They make a lot of really, really cool sculptures and collectibles and figures. They are toys for very rich grown-ups.
Sideshow.
If you can afford
toys
this
for very rich grown-ups.
Congratulations. I bought, I think, 2 things.
I know what I'm gonna do with my buddy. No,
I definitely regret one of those purchases. I spent too much money on it.
We like
let's check out another example.
Futurama.
You guys probably recognize this character.
Deadpool.
Famous Marvel origin. He's got quite a dirty mouth.
Gotta go see that movie, man.
Deadpool.
Probably not gonna be able to see it. Got too much work I gotta do. Gotta stay focused.
This artist really thought about silhouette from multiple angles in this pose, right? The way the limbs are posed, the way that line of action through that character, that curved line of action is super dynamic. So when we turn this sculpture around to any angle, it's going to look awesome. And this is how you get people to pay lots of money for a sculpture like this. And for you guys, more importantly, if you want to be the artist making this, you have to get good at all those aspects of character art, character design, and character sculpture.
Okay.
So let's keep talking about this. Here we have 2 really wonderful art examples. If you want to be a character artist, again,
so I'm looking to be character artist.
Show personality in their pose, right? This also shows an understanding of deformation, whether it has to do with muscular deformation, whether it has to do with cloth and fabric studies, where you're showing that I know how clothes works.
I do a lot of studies. Need to get back to the drawing board, if you know what I'm saying.
We actually have a bunch of beautiful art by Thiago Rios. You can go to his art station and check out more of his work.
What's his
name?
You
can see, for example, in that
look him up
character
right
on the
now.
bottom left.
Look him up right now. Give him his props.
It's not like a really extreme pose.
Give him his props, yo.
There's still curvature in the back. The arms
Where
are
art station at?
To create nice sort of negative spaces between them. Right?
That was
all by design. And if I broke that down into silhouette, every one of those silhouettes.
Give him his props.
To that character on the top right, Punisher, right? Again, not a terribly complex pose.
I mean, do that.
Arch in the back. He's pushing his
I did not mean to do that.
The other leg is further down. So as we turn around this character, the arms are offset and asymmetrical. And that's another thing that you want to think about in posing. You generally don't want to keep your character very symmetrical when you get to the posing stage, because more often than not, we are going to be posed asymmetrically. Now, silhouette in 3D is also important when it comes to video games or for animators, right? If you're animating a character for a video game, you want to make sure that the pose
that rock or one cycle
exhibit strong silhouette and
that
line
bird
of action.
right there.
Now, even if you're doing this for not a video game, let's say you're doing it for camera in a pre-rendered situation for like a Pixar movie or a DreamWorks movie, you still have to make sure those poses work really well. But when you're doing something for a video game where the viewer may be able to move the camera to different angles, and you have to think about those angles, you need to make sure your animations look good in all of those angles. So guys, by the way, this is if you go to Sketchfab and you go to RSTR_TV, he's got a lot of really cool stuff on his Sketchfab as well, or she, honestly. I don't know the sex of the person. I shouldn't assume. How about they have a lot of good stuff on their Sketchfab that would be great to check out. So guys, hopefully by the end of this, you guys have come to the realization that the combination.
Show y'all where these are cited from.
Forms.
Bow! Proco, which I got Proco courses, slideshow, art station. You gotta go. Sketchfab, and we got pixels right here. So
together really drives the process of character.
You guys won't be able to see it on the Tickety Talk.
And that you guys are going to be using this stuff constantly throughout your time here at LAFS. So with all that
actually, I could probably bring it up, but
you guys took away a lot of really nice nuggets of information from this video. And I look forward to working with you guys more throughout this activity.
All right. Looks like enough of that. All right, let's see what I need to get. Do I need to create another file? Let me see.
Hey guys, welcome to the video where we are going to be covering how to draw out the primary forms of the human figure from the front, side, and back view. So let's jump in and get started. Now, if you haven't done so yet, you're going to want to create the file that we're working within, and there's some specific file requirements that you want to go through here. Now, I happen to have them already set up, but just to go through the process with you guys, I want you to change this from pixels to inches. It's very important.
I'm going to have to update.
I want you guys to think about working on kind of like a piece of paper, right? How big would that piece of paper be? Now, the average one that you might see is about 8.5 by 11 inches. And we're going to want to go a lot wider than that. So I'm actually going to change our width here to 16 inches. And we're going to change our height here to 8.5 inches. So it's about the height of a sheet of paper, but a lot
it is flickering. It's annoying.
Our resolution here, we're also going to change.
I don't know why it does that, man. It just flickers.
How print resolution works. So if you're ever taking something that you've drawn on a computer and you want to print it, you want to make sure that it's about that high. And then the rest of these settings will be fine for us. If for some reason you want to change your background,
move it out the way, bro. This is annoying me.
Free, but white will work for now. And we're going to hit create. We have our file to start working.
Oh, that flickering for nothing, man. Oh.
We change our height here to 8.5 inches. So, right, how file requirements that you want to get of the human figure from
file requirements
and back view. So let's jump in and get started. Now,
turn that off.
If you haven't done so yet, you're going to want to create the file that we're working within, and there's some specific file requirements that you want to go through here. Now, I happen to have them already set up, but just to go through the process with you guys, I want you to change this from pixels to inches. It's very important. I want you guys to think about working on kind of like a piece of paper, right? How big would that piece of paper be? Now, the average one that you might see is about 8.5 by 11 inches. And we're going to want to go a lot wider than that. So I'm actually going to change our width here to 16 inches. And we're going to change our height here to 8.5 inches. So it's about the height of a sheet of paper, but a lot wider. Our resolution here, we're also going to change to 300. That is how print resolution works. So if you ever take something on a computer and you want to print it, you want to make sure that it's about that high. And then the rest of these settings will be fine for us. If for some reason you want to change your background color, by all means feel free, but white will work for now. And we're going to hit create. We have our file to start working with it. Now, before we get started, if you want to have some extra reference for yourself in here, I definitely suggest it. Your background color by all.
Sorry, guys. I just don't like when it's flickering. Turn around sheet. I'm making some presets right here. Two. Actually.
By all means feel free, but white will work for now. And we're going to hit create. We have our file to start working with it. Now, before we get started, if you want to have some extra reference for yourself in here, I definitely suggest it. Bring in the provided file that we have. I think that could help out quite a bit. So it's definitely something that I would suggest. So let's actually go to open. I'm going to open the file in here. We can try and import it if we wanted to, but just opening it and dragging it in will probably be easier. And I have my file right there, primary form turnaround image. So with that file in here, let's get this file into our other file. I'm going to actually just grab this and drag it out this way. And to get it into there, I'm going to use my move tool right up here. The hotkey for that, by the way, is D, should you ever want to get to it a little faster. And we're just going to drag it right into there. Beautiful. I can close out of this file now. Now that I have this in here, I don't really need that much anymore. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller and keep it on the side so that I have it to draw off of, but I'm not going to be beholden to it. Now, what I really want you guys to do beyond just drawing off of this, what I think would be really beneficial is also drawing on the skeleton that you worked on earlier this week, especially if you've made corrections to it. Now, if you haven't, I don't want you guys to focus on that because you want to make sure that you're working off correct proportions here, which I will be drawing out a skeleton from scratch in here, but you could also bring in that previous file, assuming you did very, very well on it. So
I redo it for
the
practice
first thing that
purposes.
I actually want to do before I get into anything too intense is I want to make sure that I'm staying organized in here. So let's make sure that we name this. I'm going to name it ref right now. That's totally fine. I'm also going to create a group in here to start with. We're going to name this front, and we're going to start working on that front view in there. So I'm going to bring my layer into here. And for now, I'm just going to call this rough because I don't really want to get too deep into anything as of yet before I set up one other thing. And the other thing that I want to be doing is outside of this group, and I'm going to do this in a separate group actually, so we're going to have a group here called the guides. And this is very, very important, guys. We want to make sure that we're keeping things from view to view lined up. It's always the really important thing about turnaround sheets. So in this guides layer, for now, I'm not going to get too crazy with it. I'm just going to use my brush tool. Let's see what brush I have currently selected. That's a very hard brush, but that'll be fine. And I'm just going to basically figure out about where I want the top of my characters to end up and about where I want the bottom of my characters to end up. I don't want to go too above, like close to the top of the page, too close to the bottom of the page. I think this will work out well for now. We may end up changing it later, but for now, this is going to give me a good starting point. So let's navigate back to our rough layer. And in here, I'm going to start building up my skeleton based off of the stuff that we had talked about earlier. Actually, I'm going to bring in my old skeleton. I don't really want to spend too much time with you guys watching me do that. So let's actually get in here. I believe here's my skeleton looking all lovely in its group. So actually take this group. I'm going to copy it by hitting Control-C. And I'm just going to come in here and hit Control-V to paste it in. So the first thing that I need to do is I need to get these to match up with the guides I have in here, right? So let's actually bring it into up here. We'll call this skeleton. So I have it nice and organized. In fact, I'm going to put it. So the first thing that I believe, here's my skeleton looking all lovely in its group. So actually take this group. I'm going to copy it by hitting Control-C. And I'm just going to come in here and hit Control-V to paste it in. So the first thing that I need to do is I need to get these to leave. Here's my skeleton looking all lovely in its group. So actually take this group. I'm going to copy it by hitting Control-C. And I'm just going to come in here and hit Control-V to paste it in. So the first thing that I need to do is I need to get these to match up with the guides I have in here, right? So let's actually bring it into up here. We'll call this skeleton. So I have it nice and organized. In fact, I'm going to bring the opacity of it pretty far down. I don't want it to be too intense. And we are going to scale it down. And one thing that I like to do in Photoshop actually is if I'm scaling, you've got two options to do this with. You can use your move tool, and you can actually, in the settings in Photoshop, turn that pivot on and off. Or if you prefer, you can go to Edit, Free Transform. And here you actually have the option to turn that pivot on and off just with this little button right here. And that's going to be kind of important for me because I'm going to do a couple things. First and foremost, I want to get my head, the top of the head, lined up with the top of that line, right? I'm going to actually nudge it up a little bit with my arrow key. And then I'm going to take my pivot, move it right to there, and hold Alt when I scale. So I scale from that point, and then I just need to scale until the feet touch the bottom of that line. And we're ready.
I'm tripping. Did I
now,
delete
I might decide to move it right to there.
Hold on, man. Okay.
So I'm going to do a couple things. First and foremost, I want to get my head, the top of the head, lined up with the top of that line, right? I'm going to actually nudge it up a little bit with my arrow key. And then I'm going to take my pivot, move it right to there, and hold Alt when I scale. So I scale from that point, and then I just need to scale until the feet touch the bottom of that line. And we're ready to go. Now, I might decide to myself, based off of the size of my character and where everything's lining up in here, I have a little more room to work with, right? So let's play around with that, actually. I'm going to move my skeleton guys a little bit higher up here. I'm going to move my pivot right about here. And now let's scale this down. Scale it out a little bit more. Holding Alt, still making sure that all of my characters are well within the page. So this is where I actually want to work at now. I'm going to adjust my guides here by actually just scaling them up, holding Alt, so I scale from the middle, and hopefully the top and bottom will line up. But if they don't, I can just take, again, my pivot, move it here, hold Alt again, get it to line up at the bottom of the feet. So now I have those two guidelines. Now I have my... old guidelines for my skeleton in here to help me out as well. So all this is going to kind of be really helpful.
Dang.
One other thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take my side view of my skeleton on the feet, holding Alt this down, scale it out a little bit more, holding Alt, still making sure that all of my characters are well within the time with that touch the bottom of that line. And we're ready to go. Now, I might decide to myself, based off of the size of my character and where everything's lining up in here, I have a little more room to work with, right? So let's play around with that, actually. I'm going to move my skeleton guys a little bit higher up here. I'm going to move my pivot right about here. And now let's scale this down. Scale it out a little bit more. Holding Alt, still making sure that all of my characters are well within the page. So this is where I actually want to work at now. I'm going to adjust my guides here by actually just scaling them up, holding Alt, so I scale from the middle, and hopefully the top and bottom will line up. But if they don't, I can just take, again, my pivot, move it here, hold Alt again, get it to line up at the bottom of the feet. So now I have those two guidelines. Now I have my old guidelines for my skeleton in here to help me out as well. So all this is going to kind of be really helpful. One other thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take my side view of my skeleton here and just shift it over ever so slightly, so it ends up really nice and centered between those guys. All right. Now that we have all this set up and ready to go, let me take my skeleton group and actually move it under that front layer. In fact, I can keep it in the front group and just have it underneath everything. I'm also going to take my guides group here and just make it a little bit more transparent. And then let's get started. Let's start drawing in some rough stuff in here. So I'm going to just start with a black initially. I'll worry about color stuff as we get into this later. In fact, let me close out of that file just to give myself a little bit more RAM juice to work with in here. And then let's just start drawing this out based off of what we already have in here. So I'm going to start with my front view. We'll zoom in a little bit. I'm going to change to a brush that has...
No. All right.
Some pressure opacity. In fact, I'm actually going to switch over to my Tiles drawing box app PHP. I'm going to draw this in like I would be drawing in with pencil. So let's get this head form kind of popped in here. Now you can pretty much keep the same form that you had before, where we're going to get our cranium mass in here. We want to think of our jaw mass. So now I'd like you guys to think about narrowing that jaw maybe just a little bit as we get to the chin on the front. And then find the middle. I think that's really important. Find the middle that way, and then find the middle. We're drawing this out based on...
All right, so let's go. I want to lock this actually. There we go. Okay. That way it won't be. Okay. Hold on. Is my LinkedIn even working? Okay. Okay. Let's do.
What we already laid out and just have it slightly. Guidelines from fully. The top and bottom will line up, but if they don't, I can just take, again, my pivot, move it here, hold Alt again, get it to line up at the bottom of the feet. So now I have those two guidelines. Now I have my old guidelines for my skeleton in here to help me out as well. So all this is going to kind of be really helpful. One other thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take my side view of my skeleton here and just shift it over ever so slightly. So it ends up really nice and centered between those guys. All right. Now that we have all this set up and ready to go, let me take my skeleton group and actually move it under that front layer. In fact, I can keep it in the front group and just have it underneath everything. I'm also going to take my guides group here and just make it a little bit more transparent.
Keeps bringing up TikTok, man. Freaking, you gotta figure out. Let me see. Yeah, I know why I was bringing that up, bro. I'm gonna have to exchange that hotkey or take that out. It's annoying me. Yeah. Come on, Tickety Talk. Let's do. See a lot of people on here. Hi, 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 hi. Got a lot of y'all up in here. Sorry, we're just going back to the stream. All right, cool. Hi, hi. All right, I'm done after this. All right, so let me go ahead and I don't remember the hotkey, man. Let's see. Hold on. View type. It's image. Image size. Nah, it's edit. Yeah, I'm hitting Control T. There we go.
And then let's get started. Let's start drawing in some rough stuff in here. So I'm going to just start with a black initially. I'll worry about color stuff as we get into this later. In fact, let me just close out of that file just to give myself a little bit more RAM juice to work with in here. And then let's just start drawing this out based off of what we already have in here. So I'm going to start with my front view. We'll zoom in a little bit. I'm going to change to a brush that has some pressure opacity. In fact, I'm actually going to switch over to my Kyle's drawing box happy.
Oh, I don't have that.
I'm going to draw this in like I would be drawing in with pencil. So let's get this head form kind of popped in here. Now you can pretty much keep the same form that you had before, where we're going to get our cranium mass in here. We want to think of our jaw mass. So now I'd like you guys to think about narrowing that jaw maybe just a little bit as we get to the chin on the front. And then find the middle. I think that's really important. Find the middle that way, and then find the middle of the height as well. That's going to give you two important things. It's going to give you your brow line and your eye line through the middle this way. And then that middle line is going to tell you where your nose is. And when we start turning this form in different directions, that's going to help a lot. Let's start doing some other stuff. We can kind of work our way down if we want, but what I would really like to do is I want to move into my shoulders.
Ah, shoot. That was a good hair, too.
Most important proportion.
Hold on. Where's my roughs? Nope. There we go. All right. Let's go. Oh, yeah. It's still kind of rough. Ah. Ah. There we go. Ah.
We have right. And we talked about the fact that the average human is generally between 2.5, 3 heads wide or so. This guy's here is actually pretty wide. He's probably about 3, almost 3 and change. So when we start massing up our shoulder here and massing up this shoulder. Now, I'm going to leave it up to you guys how you would like to draw this out. You can draw your character out in A pose, the way we have it here. If you would like to try dropping one arm a little bit more and raising up the other one, that's fine as well. If you'd like to draw one of the arms straight out as well, I don't have a problem with whichever way you decide to do that. I'm going to, in this case, actually follow the reference here, and I'm going to make a quick adjustment to my skeleton to do that. So let's get into my front view for my skeleton. It's right here, I believe. And let's see if we can just grab that arm. Arm copy.
I'm just going to do an A pose.
I'm going to hit Control T to bring up my free transform. And if I move the pivot there, when I rotate, I can just really easily kind of move the arm down that way. Kind of matching up the rotation I have on the arms there. While we're at it, let's do the same for our back.
I'm still here, TikTok. There we go. Oh no! Oh no! There we go.
Arm copy one more time.
Wi-Fi being Google or something, bro.
Let's make sure that we keep it on the same side, right? So here,
I was gonna keep it in the A pose, man.
Around,
gonna keep it in the A pose. Usually be in the T pose.
100% perfect. I'm just looking at that line and seeing that those hands are
down.
All right. Let's move back into our rough drawing that we were working on. Kind of keep working our way through here. So I have my shoulder widths. They match up about with those 3 heads, maybe a little bit wider. Again, this guy's a little bit wider than 3 heads wide. I'm going to bulk up my neck cylinder here. You can see his is about as wide as his head, maybe it's slightly narrower in certain areas. And you can see it kind of comes down a little bit angled down in the middle. If you guys can start thinking about the neck that way, lower in the front here. I may have come a little too far down with it, so I'm just going to cut that back up there a little bit and just switch to my eraser, which I believe I have the hard round pressure size eraser, which will erase everything because it doesn't have any opacity on it. All right. Now, let's start. I want to make sure when we're drawing a lot of these forms, by the way, it's really nice to be able to kind of draw through your character, whether it's understanding that the neck is actually coming up to here, and that's going to help with when we draw it in on the backside, or things, for example, as we move into this torso region, and I start thinking about this larger mass, right, that's containing the rib cage, and you'll see this is kind of ending right about where the rib cage does, so use that as a guide. And then up here, you can see it's going to cut into the neck a little bit and down through this way. Now, something that's always nice to do whenever you're drawing something like this, it's supposed to be symmetrical. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll take the image I have, and then I'm just going to go to Edit, Transform, and I'm going to flip it horizontally. Make sure the middle lines line up, right? And that'll really start to give you an understanding of where you're dealing with certain.
Hold on, I gotta check. See anybody comment on Instagram? Where's the IG at? IG, where you at? Where you at? Instagram, where's the IG at? There you are. Oh shoot, what happened? Wait, I'm not live on Instagram? I should be. Interesting. Am I tripping, bro? I am live. I don't even know what happened to my thing. Let me see. Yeah, I don't know what happened. It's kind of odd. Okay. I'm live on there. So do I have another? No, I don't know what I did. Whatever. Can't see Instagram comments now. It's all right. There we go. Okay. So what's going on, man? All right. Let's go right here. Okay.
These symmetries. Sometimes I'll just take these guys and actually just merge them together, right? And now I know that everything's pretty similar on one side and the other. You can see my spheres were kind of off, so now I may have to come in and kind of average those out a little bit. And that's okay, because we're working in a rough right now. I can see the center line of my body is right about through here. And then for the most part, I did a pretty decent job of keeping that torso, upper torso symmetrical. Now, I may have come a little bit lower than I probably should here and here. This all depends on the individual's ribcage, but for now, this will work fine. Now let's keep working our way through our torso and start working in the center area. Now, we're dealing with male proportions here, so this character is going to have we're going to draw this cylinder kind of up through the body through about here. And it's in the front view, it'll look flat, but
actually, I think I need
I
just noticed. I think I need some changes.
Down to the bottom of the pelvis, probably about here, right where it's going to start hitting sort of the round of that pelvis. And I'm probably actually going to have to widen it a little bit more so it starts hitting a little bit further out on that pelvis. Because this is a male form, we don't want the pelvis jutting out too much outside of where the outer side of his body was. If this was a female, what would probably end up happening is we would end up with something with the forms here pinching in more. We can exaggerate this a lot more, especially if we start widening the pelvis here further. And again, I always want to mention, these are averages. These are not the rule. So not every male looks that way, not every female looks a certain way either. All right. Now, because this is a male, we're probably going to have a little bit extra groin sort of coming down under that pelvic floor, the bottom of it. But I'm going to pull up on the sides here. And if you want, you can just angle to the outer side of the pelvis here. But here's the key. Think of the pelvis coming higher up into that cylinder. That's what I really want you guys thinking about. Almost like a pair of underwear, right? If we were thinking of a pair of old school tighty whities, right?
Hmm.
Now let's keep this going.
Tighty
down.
whities.
Now you'll notice in this reference the legs are angled out. Here we have the legs straight down. It's again up to you which way you would like to do that. I'm more of a fan of keeping the legs nice and straight, even though in the 3D reference I do have them angled. So for this character, I'm actually going to keep the legs straight, and we're going to pull out. We're going to create basically a cylinder that kind of starts wider up here and tapers in. And what I really also want you thinking about, you could think of this as just a cylinder that cuts at an angle, or if you prefer to think of it as a flat cylinder, right, that's facing perfectly, coming out and coming straight down. Again, it's going to taper in and be a little bit smaller at the bottom. It'll be a little bit wider at the top. But if you want to think of it as a flat cylinder like that, what's going to happen is you're going to end up with a gap right there. And we have anatomy, musculature, and stuff in there. So to alleviate that, we can almost think of it like an action figure where there's a sphere that helps this leg rotate in a bunch of different directions. That's really how our leg rotates there. Our range of motion there allows for sort of rotation in most directions. So thinking of it that way can be helpful. And then we're going to keep coming down, and then we're going to focus on our calf area where we're going to use a long spheroid. Now I want you to notice that I'm pulling the masses of these muscles a little further into the center. Part of that reason is that our leg bone actually angles in slightly as our leg comes straight down. But it's something that you guys have to worry about too much. So we're going to have a long spheroid for this calf area, and then we're going to have a little bit of a tapered cylinder through the bottom part of the leg there. And then finally, you can actually use those same old feet wedge forms that we had from before. Those will work just fine. I'm going to do the same thing I did before, where I duplicate this and flip it horizontally, just so I don't have to draw the second leg. This is one of the wonderful things about working digitally, guys. You can make this stuff go a lot faster if you work smart. And honestly, when you work in 3D, the same thing is going to happen. You guys are going to use symmetry in 3D software to help you with this stuff. All right, so finally, let's finish off these arms. Now, I'm actually going to do this arm on a separate layer because I want it to, I want to be able to rotate it later. So I'm actually going to still draw in the sphere. That's going to help me with where my pivots end up and matching.
Oh, you know what?
Side.
Shoot.
So we're going to have a cylinder that, again, kind of tapers in a little bit.
I just remembered.
As it comes from the large shoulder area down to the elbow area, similar to like what we're seeing in the reference here. Now, this guy's got a really beefy upper arm. I went a little bit narrower here. I'll leave it up to you guys. If you want to go a little bit bulkier, by all means, breathe in.
I screwed up a little bit.
End up with the face there. Nice twist. It's going to start to bridge those out. I'm just going to go to so let's start. I want to make sure when we're going to come.
Hold on. I want to see something real quick.
Right, this the other side. Drawing or do a little bit of color, and then you can color some people. As our leg on it to I want to be able to rotate it later. Here now, this guy's. We're gonna take this arm layer
pause that real quick. I just want to see something real quick. Is that? Let me see how primary form turn around.
Hey guys, so in this video we're going to move on and we're going to be completing the side view of our characters. Sure, we keep our photo to my Kyle's Happy HD drawing box to draw out the lines into our side view here. Let's get started. We're going to be basically
okay.
It. I'm going to flip it horizontally, edit, trigger that. So finally, horizontally, just sort of that helps this leg rotate in a bunch of different directions. So that's really how our leg rotates there. Our range of motion.
I think I screwed up a little bit.
For sort of rotation in most directions. So thinking of it that way can be helpful. And then we're going to keep coming down, and then we're going to focus on our calf area where we're going to use a long spheroid. Now I want you to notice that I'm pulling the masses there to tapers in a little bit.
I didn't think about this digitally. I've been doing things.
I'm actually going to still draw in the sphere. That's going to help me with where my pivots end up and matching it up with the other side. But we're going to have a cylinder that, again, kind of tapers in a little bit as it comes from the large shoulder area down to the elbow area, similar like what we're seeing in the reference here. Now, this guy's got a really beefy upper arm. I went a little bit narrower here. I'll leave it up to you guys. If you want to go a little bit bulkier, by all means, feel free. I wouldn't go much bulkier than this guy. Don't go bulkier, excuse me. If you want to go a little bit less bulky.
Actually, let me see. Did I get any feedback?
You're aiming for someone a little bit.
Hold on. I want to shoot. Where did I stop at? I'll figure it out later. 1751. That's the timestamp. Oh, nah. Hey. Let me see. I missed my meeting today. It's in meetings. Go to meetings. And past meetings. Let's go to record. Really, dude? Hold on, I downloaded it. Is that it? Really? 7 minutes, 7 seconds, bro? Man, okay. I was just wondering if I got some feedback. All right, I'm gonna go ahead. All right, let's go to my dashboard. Actually, what's the third? Let me see. We have human proportions drawing. Then I have 1.3. When is this due? This is due on the 11th. Okay, I'm gonna have to do that tomorrow. Some of this tomorrow. Yeah, they're dang, bro.
And then we have this cylinder facing up slightly at the people in our reference are.
Interesting. Okay. Line of action pose. That one's a mix. That one's an easy. How much is that? 19. That's 19. Not 19. That's 19 minutes. I can do that too. Go ahead and do that assignment today. Then I can complete those two today. And we have 1.4. What's this? Action poses. Oh, okay. Just doing examples. Oh, yeah, I can do this too. This would be on my own time. Okay. All right. So we have that. What's that? Hold on. What you said? Oh, that's on Twitch. Donda. Don't know what you mean. I don't know what that means. Donda. Donda. All right. Let's go. Just want to see how much I got left. I can actually finish all this tonight. Most of this tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right. We got all that.
Now, I'm actually going to do this arm on a separate layer because I want it to, I want to be able to rotate it later. So I'm actually going to still draw in the sphere. That's going to help me with where my pivots end up and matching it up with the other side. But we're going to have a cylinder that, again, kind of tapers in a little bit as it comes from the large shoulder area down to the elbow area, similar like what we're seeing in the reference here. Now, this guy's got a really beefy upper arm. I went a little bit narrower here. I'll leave it up to you guys. If you want to go a little bit bulkier, by all means, feel free. I wouldn't go much bulkier than this guy. Don't go bulkier, excuse me. If you want to go a little bit less bulky, feel free, especially if you're aiming for someone a little bit more average proportion in that regard, or if you want to shoot for something a little bit more female. So let's move on to the forearm region. Similar to the calf, we're going to have a sort of oblong spheroid coming through here. And again, similar to the calf, we're going to have a tapered cylinder for this part of the arm.
Donda. Actually, how long ago was that? What time is it? Oh, 12. Sorry, I didn't see that. We have, let me see, E. Right here. I never thought about this with digital drawing, man. So I'm going to have to fix B. B. There we go. Okay. Then we have. All right. I think I'll leave it as that. So we're going to do arms.
You can just center it on the arm if you want, though you really want the flat at the top to kind of flow a little bit more into the round there, and then you have a more rounded cleft on the bottom. But at this point, it doesn't really matter. And then for the hands, guys, just make sure
I feel like the arms are too big, man. It's just me.
Just make a long rectangle.
Yeah, I think the arms might be too big.
And for the thumb,
or too long.
I like to break it up into a triangle, kind of wedge shape, and then a little rectangle for the thumb like that. We're going to take this arm layer again, duplicate it. I'm going to flip it horizontally, edit, transform, flip horizontal. And you're going to see that it flipped it right there, right? So there is another way to do this. Let's actually go back a second. And if I use edit, free transform, and I take my pivot, move it to the middle of the scene, and then I can right click actually when I'm in free transform and just go to flip horizontal. It'll flip it to the other side. So you can kind of have Photoshop do that for you if you want. I'm going to transform it again. I'm using free transform. I'm just going to move my pivot up to about the center that's here, actually right where that shoulder rotation is. And we're just going to bring that down. There you go, guys. That create.
What did he say?
Let's move on to the forearm region. Similar to the calf, we're going to have a sort of
I feel like this arm is too big.
oblong spheroid coming through here. And again, similar to the calf, we're going to have a tapered cylinder for this part of the arm. You can just center it on the arm if you want, though you really want the flat at the top to kind of flow a little bit more into the round there, and then you have a more rounded cleft on the bottom. At this point, it doesn't really matter. And then for the hands, guys, just make sure get that nice rectangle for the palm. You just make a long rectangle for your fingers. And for the thumb, I like to break it up into a triangle, kind of wedge shape, and then a little rectangle for the thumb like that. We're going to take this arm
too big.
Duplicate it.
I think this arms team's too big. Something's weird about it. Definitely.
I'm going to flip it horizontally, edit, transform, flip horizontal. You're going to see that.
That's what he did. Okay. So we have. Oops. Forgot. I'm on TikTok. So TikTok, I need to get rid of that freaking hotkey on TikTok. It's messing up with my flow, man. Not flow, it's edit, free transform. I'm correct.
Flip it right. Want the little bit out of the top to kind of. We're going to take this arm layer again, duplicate it. I'm going to flip it horizontally, edit, transform, flip horizontal. You're going to see that it flipped it right there, right? So There is another way to do this. Let's actually go back a second. And if I use edit free transform, and I take my pivot, move it to the middle of the scene, and then I can right click actually when I'm in free transform and just go to flip horizontal. It'll flip it to the other.
I have to do it this way because TikTok keep flipping over. Let me see. Okay. And I didn't think about it. Same with Maya. I see. Hold on. I'm going to delete this. Let's see. Delete this real quick. It's not straight. Just learn some stuff. Now we're gonna go jump. Usually it's transform. Do it again. Maybe I'll get some feedback. I feel like some a little weird with this proportions I got. I don't do it as much. You know, practice more of these on off times, or maybe I want to like start doing drawings. I'm gonna start doing drawings like late night, and I'll just be practicing, just streaming, getting some content in. So we yeah, okay. And let's go ahead. Oh, wrong.
So you can kind of have Photoshop
wrong keyboard
if you want. I'm going to transform it again. I'm using free transform. I'm just going to move my pivot up to about the center that's here, actually right where that shoulder rotation is, and we're just going to bring that down. There you go, guys. That creates your rough lines for your front view. So from here, the one other thing I would like you guys to do, let's at this point, let's just call this rough.
Yeah, lines. I'm a little off on my proportions.
Honest, I don't need you to clean it up more than that. I started rough. If you want to do a lot of cleanup, by all means, feel free. You do not have to. To me, this is actually enough for submission. But if you want to go a step further, feel free to come in here and just do a little bit of coloring, right? You don't have to. But it's sometimes nice to be able to differentiate certain areas in here. So I'm actually just going to go through, start color sampling, whatever colors I have in there. I'm going to use the hard round pressure size just to make sure it all ends up nice and opaque. And I'm not going to be very clean about this. I'm just going to do it quick. By the way, to color sample when you have a brush out, just hold Alt and click. And then you can color sample anywhere in your scene. But we'll just get a little bit of red in there. Teal through here.
How do I do it? Oh, actually, let's do that. Oh. That's better. Actually.
And because I'm going to be a little bit rough with this. I'm not overly concerned about being super clean on my edges, though. I do have those black lines to help me with that. And I know that in certain areas I'll probably be painting over something, or I might come back in, sample, paint over that. It just depends on which one I want to overlap with the other one, right? Just orange here, etc., etc., etc.
I don't care if I spelled the storm.
So I'm going to speed up this coloring portion so you guys don't have to watch me go through all of this.
That all wrong.
And then as
don't
soon
care.
as I'm done with that, we will move on to our side and our back view.
Okay. Back to that color. Interesting. Okay.
And there you have it, guys. So we have the front view fully colored up, and from here we can move on to completing the side view.
Oh. Spelled stomach all wrong. Ah. I think it's the forearm right here. One. I don't remember the. Why? We have hands. Hands. Oops. Fingers, whatever, don't care. I fixed it later. Ah, shoot, whatever. What the fuck? Oops, excuse my language. I don't even know what I did. Oh. Oh, okay. Hold on. Just remembered something. All right. Ball of the head. Probably what I did is I can just combine all these. Nice crackle. Crackle, crackle, barrel. Crackle, crackle, barrel. What time is it? I'm getting hungry. She'll be getting. Oh, shoot. Foot. Oops. I'll probably take a break soon. All right, so it's me. That in the downloads. All right. So we have that. And nope. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. And, oh. Okay. Wait, who followed me? See TikTok. Ah, okay. All right. So we're gonna go ahead. Still got a few things I need to do. Let me see who's live. One, we got Facebook today. And let me go ahead. That's what I wanted. Ah, freaking A. Log me out. Log me out, son. All right. So we done. Let me see. Complete that video. Now we're doing the side. Takes about 9 minutes. Looks all boo boo. Don't like it. But more practice I do, the more I get better.
So in this video, we're going to move on, and we're going to be completing the side view of our character, specifically the primary forms. So let's move into this side view, and we're going to use the reference that we've been using before. I'm going to create a new group in here called side. Let's make sure we keep our Photoshop files nice and organized. And just like before, I'm just going to create a layer in here that we will call rough.
You know
I'm
what?
going to use my Kyle's Happy HB drawing box to draw out these lines. Just use default black and Photoshop will work fine. We're going to start working on the side view. So I don't really want to have this back view conflicting with it. So let's actually go into our where did we place our skeleton? We had originally placed it in our front here. Let's turn off our back view of the skeleton. That's going to help us with that. Okay. Let's move into our side view here. Let's get started. We're going to be basically drawing out what we did before. Now, you want to make sure before you get into this that you are matching up your new forms with the character that we've drawn out here. So, for example, I do want to make sure that the chins line up accurately, and I can see that the chin in here is a little bit lower. I can also see that the side view of my skeleton here is a little high. So I'm going to have to make some adjustments, right? The top of my shoulders hit close to the bottom of that chin, right? So we want to make sure we get that right. We want to make sure we're hitting the top of that rib cage and the bottom of that rib cage at just the right points. The top of that underwear form, the bottom of the underwear form on the front and the back. That knee split looks about right. Ankle split here is going to look about right as well. But now that I have those set up for myself, I'm going to keep an eye on them as I go in. Now, generally, when you draw out something in a side view, right, you normally don't want your arm kind of blocking it like this. We have the arm in here. You can draw the arm there if you want, but generally if you're doing like a character turnaround that you'd be handing off to someone to model in 3D, you'd actually almost cut that arm off. You're basically cross-sectioning the character right about where their arm is. So based on the hole that I'm seeing right about it goes from about here to about here, that's where the hole of that shoulder is going to be right about there. It's not going to be quite as large as the overall sphere. It's actually only the area where it starts intersecting there and there. So you want to make sure that you don't take it all the way up to like the shoulder region here. But I'm going to start with that just to help me visualize that as I go into some of the body or forms of the body. Now, remember, our deltoids or our shoulder masses end up right at the top about here. It's going to be a little larger than the rib cage. You want to make sure to add some bulk to it on both the front and the back. And the reason being is that you have musculature that we're trying to kind of contain in these primary forms, like our pectorals and some of our shoulder muscles. So you want to think of them as being bulkier than the skeleton that they're laying on. Let's get our neck cylinder in here now. We're going to bring it up from the base of the skull here, down this way, down this way. It's going to widen a little bit as it comes down. It almost flows into the back there and comes into the front of the body, probably about, I mean, really, we're just going to pull it all the way through down that way, but it will intersect right about along there. Now, as we move into the head mass, remember, we want to think about just, we can think of it as one single mass, but really, I do want you guys to note the fact that we have our cranium, which will generally actually be not perfectly spherical. It'll be a little more oblate. Remember, we talked about spheroid. It's actually kind of a spheroid. It's a little flatter on the top and the bottom. And then our jaw is going to come down this way. And I like to pull it off the front of the face like that, but really, once you start thinking about things like the brow forms and stuff, you do have this sort of cave in and jut back out, because we have our skull mass that comes in there a little bit and then kind of comes back out as we start hitting the nasal cavity. So if you want to think about that sort of cave in there, if you want to go even further, think about where that ridge of your temple mass is, right here. Don't have to do these parts. I just want the overall cranium mass and mandible in here. But if you can go a step further and get these guys in, maybe even think about, that's actually probably where it's not, but if you can also find where the cheekbone is here, that can be really helpful as well. Those are really important things for a side view. I'm actually going to make my neck cylinder here come out further back. All right, now let's move into the cylinder of our torso here. So you can see that cylinder comes up to about here. Based on this view, you can see it's kind of tilted at an angle this way, really. So I drew it flat in that front view, but in actuality, it has a little bit of tilt back that way. If you really want to think of it intersecting that form like that.
Don't like it.
Again, bring it down into this pelvis region, right? And now we're going to build up that same sort of front mass of the underwear. Here's the groin area. When we look at it from the side, we have, let's think of that ball joint that we have that kind of runs there. See, I'm very off. So let's go back to the guides. Let's get that nice red out. Let's make sure we get this right. I'm going to get the top of the ball here, the bottom of the ball right there. So we're going to go back into our rough here. I'm going to erase out those original lines I drew in, and I'm going to readjust my circle here, switching to the black again, and make sure I put that about just in the right spot, because that's going to help me with certain things, like figuring out how this underwear form ends up. Really, I'm just going to cut across the bottom here. You don't have to really worry about cutting up and over this. Just think of the underside of the underwear coming around here. And then the big thing on the back side is we do have some mass of the glutes that are going to come off the pelvis and create more mass underneath there as well. So you can think of it as coming up and down around that way if you want. You don't have to. But the real important thing is that you want to make sure you have that extra bit of groin mass in here if you're keeping it male. If you're doing female, you pull this in a lot more. But no matter what, whether it's a male or a female, you do want to add a little bit of mass to the glutes there. Now, for the tapered cylinder of the thigh here, we can see it starts up, intersected into this. It's going to come pretty far forward, pretty far back. You do want to intersect those glutes with it as well. And then it's going to taper in as it comes into the knee area. Now, really, and we'll deal with this more next week, you would have a little bit of a jut out here. This is a bony part. That's your kneecap. It's your patella. We're not going to worry about that right now. We're just going to get that spheroid in here again.
We're
going to get a tapered cylinder in here. Now, in the 3D reference, I just centered this tapered cylinder on this spheroid, right? But what actually happens is this front side here flattens out. A dark bit of mass. The thing is that you want to make sure you have that.
The navel. Yeah, that's about right. Okay.
Extra bit of groin mass in here if you're keeping it male. If you're doing female, you would pull this in a lot more. But no matter what, whether it's a male or female,
oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to stretch pretty soon.
To the glutes there. Now, for the tapered cylinder of the thigh here,
we do a little stretch break.
Up, intersected into this. It's going to come pretty far forward, pretty far back. You do want to intersect those glutes with it as well. And then it's going to taper in as it comes into the knee area. Now, really, and we'll deal with this more next week, you would have a little bit of a jut out here. This is a bony part. That's your kneecaps, your patella. But we're not going to worry about that right now.
Patella.
We're going to get that spheroid in here again.
Patella. I'm about to patella.
In here. Now, in the 3D reference, I just centered this tapered cylinder on this spheroid, right? But what actually happens is this front side here.
That's that calf muscles.
Out a bit more. You have more of a cleft on the backside. So if you want to really be a little more accurate here, bring that cylinder that we're drawing in here a little bit further forward when you look at it from the side view. I'm going to draw the wedge form of the foot in here, adding a little bit more
patella.
Cylinder, and keeping my toes where they are. Now again, guys, you don't have to color code this. I think it's a good idea to do it because it gives you just a better breakdown of what's going on, but you're not required to do so. However, I'm going to go through the process of doing that now. I will be speeding
I'll do that later.
That part of the video. So,
patella. But I heard patella before. I'm a little midget. I'm gonna hit those patellos, hit those kneecaps. What's going on, Faye? All right, what we got?
And there you have it, guys. There's our completed side view of our character with all the color information in there as well. So just join me.
In the back is probably going to be similar. It's going to be easier.
Back view, and that'll complete this portion of the activity.
Yeah, see what we got. Gonna do more of these a lot more often. Measurements.
Welcome to this video where we're going to
crack these bones.
Primary form turnarounds by finishing up the back view. So let's jump in and get started. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to turn back on
using OS
the skeleton
Streamlabs.
back view that I had in here. In fact, I really shouldn't have my skeleton group inside.
We do a stretch in a minute. I need to stretch,
here,
bro.
So I want to make sure that I drag it out so it's in a separate group entirely.
You see StreamYard comments. Oh, yeah, that's for Facebook.
Over now. So
it's for Facebook. All right, let's see. I'm going to watch this video, so I'm probably not going to do anything right now.
Where, again, guys, because we're working digitally, it's probably a good idea here to think about ways to work smart, right? So we already completed the front view. Now, we can redraw it all, remeasure it all. There's no problem with that. If you want to go about doing it that way, please go for it. But in reality, the silhouette from our front view and our back view should match up perfectly. If you go into an orthographic view where we remove all perspective, you have no perspective on things, the way something looks from the front and the way something looks from the back should be exactly the same. The silhouette from both of those angles should be exactly the same. So with that in mind, I'm going to actually duplicate my front group here.
Start doing my own personal homework assignments.
And what we're going to do is we're going to go to our good old edit, transform, flip horizontal, just like we have been. I just need to line this up with where the skeleton is, right? That's going to let me know that this is all lined up with where everything in the front view there has. And I'm just going to have to make really subtle changes in here. So I have two ways of doing this. Probably the better way would be to redraw all of it, because there are some significant differences in here. And that's what I'm going to do. You could probably go in and adjust the layers individually. But there is enough in here to redraw that I think it would just be easier to merge all of this down. I'm going to take the opacity down dramatically. And I'm just really using this as a guide for where certain things are going to be placed. So with that said, I'm going to create a group on top of this now called back. And just because I don't know if you've noticed, I talked about organizing in Photoshop. I'm really, really keen on organizing in Photoshop. I'm actually going to drag my front and my side views up above my back view. And in fact, I'm going to drag my front view up above my side view, because you got to be careful with how you drop your layers in Photoshop, because it starts with my front view at the left, then my side, then my back. And in English and in American culture, we do things left to right. I want my top to bottom to match my left to right. It's a little weird, but that's just generally how we run things. We go left to right, top to bottom, or top to bottom, left to right. So that's what I use for my organizational method. But with all that said, let's go back into our back view. And I'm going to just type
us Americans like left and right.
Back. Rough. I think I might have changed my naming conventions here. But just so that I don't have confusion later, I'll name this side rough.
Oh, God, always hot visit. It's almost 12.
And I'll name this.
It's about 112, 11:12.
And this really makes me want to go back and name them all front rough lines, et cetera, et cetera. But for now, that's really what I'll need. And then just to be sure, let's do the same thing. Front color. With this extra layer in here, we're going to just get rid of that guy. Side color. If anything, take away from this, it's never too late to organize your groups and your layers. All right, so we have our default black here. I'm going to go back to my brushes and select the Kyle's drawing box. And then let's go in and start getting this drawn out. So I'm just going to recreate the line, but I want to keep in mind certain things that are going to change. So for example, with my head, you can see now my neck is going to block that cranium mass. And this is why it was important to recognize that where your cranium mass is here, even though we didn't see it from the front view, because it determines where the back of this neck ends up, right? So I see cranium mass all through here.
I'm going to take a break, man.
I'm going to see a little bit of jaw sticking out on the sides here and here, actually, right? But my neck mass is going to come down there. Now you'll see here, the shoulders cut in front of that neck mass, right? So we're going to keep that way. I could play around with my shoulder masses and how much they cut into my back. They do cut, actually, a little more into your back here. But for now, I'm going to maintain that same sort of consistent thing where I have the larger upper body rib cage mass kind of running through them. But on the back side of this, I'm going to bring that mass further down, right? Remember, we talked about the rib cage is kind of lower on the back side. That mass is also kind of running lower on the back side because of the way our muscles work on the back. My cylinder, let me get the outsides of that. You can hold shift if you want to make them really nice and straight. And then here, you can see it's actually kind of cutting down into here. I actually like that. You don't have to do that. If you want to keep it flat, that's fine. But I do like that because that also mimics what happens with our musculature. We'll talk about it a little bit more next week. And then as we get down into the glute region here, in fact, I'm going to have to bring all of that line higher up. Let's do it this way. Instead of redrawing it, I'm going to get my marquee selection tool right here. Make sure it's a rectangular marquee tool. We'll just select this whole bottom part of the line and switch to my move tool. I'm going to hold shift and just kind of drag it up a little bit, probably till right about there. I'm going to hit enter. You can hit Control D to deselect or go to select and deselect. And now I'm going to draw in the sides of my pelvis that stick out a little bit here. And this is the important part. On the back here, remember, let's find out where those glutes are coming all the way down to about here. So we want to make sure that we're bringing them all the way through this way. Now, if you want to just kind of pull them in a little on the side, it's really nice if you round this out. And I'm going to actually draw the line through the middle just so we know exactly kind of where that crack would be between them. But it's always good to know that anyways, just for purposes of the center line of the body. And then we can come in and you'll notice you can see a little bit of that round there, a little bit of that round there, but really we're going to be dealing with mainly the cylinders of the leg in here. But I do think at this point it's important, make sure that glute in this view covers the cylinders of the legs. In fact, it's up to you how you want to handle it in the side view. I put the leg over the glute there. Really,
oh, there we go. Okay.
I should have that glute covering that leg, just based on what ends up happening with the anatomy that we're dealing with back there. So let's go back to my back rough. Let me finish off. My leg mass is through here. These are pretty easy. We can pretty much copy this exactly the same way. But as we get into the ankle region, this is where things are going to change a little bit, just like they did when we did our skeleton. Our heel bone, our heel on the backside is going to be about the width of the leg here, a little narrower, and then our foot widens.
The next one, right? Where is that?
Oh, there it is. Down this way, and you're really probably not going to see much of the toes from this backside. Maybe a little bit of them sticking out here and here. Maybe. So before I move on, let's do the same thing that we've been doing before, where we are duplicating this layer.
There was something. Oh, where is it?
Make sure I have this all in the back group. And I'm going to take it and just go to Edit, Transform. And we're going to flip it horizontally. There we go. I'm going to merge those together, and that takes care of my other leg, right? Again, work smart if you can. Save yourself a little bit of time. Now, let's go into doing the arm in here. I'm going to name this arm for right now, but it's not going to matter because it's going to get merged.
I'm going to take a break in a little bit, man.
Just like we did before. Here,
I need a break.
Probably not going to have a
do
ton
some
to
stretching
change about the arm. So this will all be pretty easy, except for one important thing that I will show you guys as we get to it. So let's finish off the top part of the arm here. Draw our spheroid for the top part of the forearm. Get our cylinder for the bottom part of our forearm. Again, the top part of it lines up a little bit more with the top part of the forearm. Is a little bit more of a round.
What up?
And then the mass, when we get to the hand, this is where things change. This is very important. So we have the rectangular mass, the rectangular prism mass of our palm here, right? We're not going to change too much on that. In fact, we don't really have to change much about the finger mitten thing here of all the
fingies.
What we have to think about is that thumb pad mass.
Go get those fingies, boy.
On the opposite side of the hand, right? So we're not going to see this chunk of it. Now you can still draw it through if you want.
I don't know why I got that in my head right now. If you're not going to color this, really make sure to not draw it as heavily here as you do down here. Say hello.
If you color it through, you can change that stuff in the coloration. So I'm going to duplicate the arm. And again, let's just, I'm going to hold Control. I'm going to hit Control T to bring up my free transform. And I'm just going to bring that little pivot right to the middle. Let's put it actually right there. I'll right click and just hit flip horizontal. And I'm going to move that pivot now to the rotation in the arm there.
So he drew it and okay.
Until it matches up.
We do a lot more practices on practices. I'm going to move away from the mic right here. Gotta do more practice.
I'm actually going to bring that back rough layer to the top here. And then I'm going to hold Shift, select all of them, and then I can hit Control E to merge, or you can go to right click, merge layers. I believe we have it here somewhere. Merge layers. And now all that line work is on a single layer. I'm actually going to just delete my front copy here. I don't need that anymore.
Delete.
And then from here on in, the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to just color in all the information here just to kind of differentiate this stuff and to help layer it on top of my skeleton. Again, you guys, I will be speeding up this portion of the process because I know it's a little bit more
doing some coloring
for you guys to watch. And then I'll see you on the tail end of this.
I know why I got this in my head. That's it. Oh, you just forget it. Oh, he didn't do all that. He just colored it and cleaned. I did this. I did the coloring. All that coloring I did it the hard way.
And there you have it, guys. So we got all three views in here.
The drawing.
Just to finish up, I'm going to turn off the skeleton layer so I don't have all that stuff in here.
Make that a meme.
Leave your guides in here. If you hold them all
the little pen right here.
Fine, but just bring the opacity down on them.
Blip, blip, blip.
Turn them off. And then finally, for the reference here, I have it kind of sitting in the middle in here. I'm going to just move it over this way. I'm going to scale it down dramatically, just so it's kind of off on the side there, next to what I worked on it. And guys, hopefully having gone through this process, you have kind of a better understanding of what forms make up the human figure, what those forms work like in all three different views, from the front, from the side, and from the back. And having this understanding, hopefully you'll have a really nice base to work on as we move into more complex anatomical structures. So I look forward to working with you guys more as we keep moving forward.
I'm gonna do some stretches, man. I need to stretch. I'm gonna do some stretches real quick. On this last, I've been sitting for like what? 2 hours and 22 minutes. Oh, no yawning. You're fired. No yawning. No yitty yawn. Anyways, this is some perspective. I was just waiting, and I think that's pretty much it. Oops. Oh, and actually, it will be. And from there, it will be actually. See how that looks with all the. Where is it now? Nah. Imagine Arnold drawing. Look at my drawings. Nah. Oh man, I crack myself up sometimes. Well, I crack myself up all the time. May not be funny to y'all, but it's all good. It's funny to me. Let's see, I just want to see how this looks. I'm messing up. Bruh. Bro, I'm messing up again, man. Let's do. This one. You do the chopper now. Nah. Gotta learn how to do some cleanup lines and all. Let me see. Watch more tutorials and actually do the practices. Get my pen game. I'm gonna do some stretches in a minute, man. I need to stretch. Been sitting for a minute. What do y'all think about that perspective? Oh, we used to hate perspective. It's because I wasn't good at it. But I just do random drawings like this. And let me see. Boom. This rectangle. That looks good, man. Oops. Oh. But in reality, I'll probably be, if I had to clean it up, I would have to end up, cleaning that up. And we'll go to, where is it? That's just 3D perspective. Looks like that. And what I can probably also do, I can probably just make a door right here. Oops. And yeah, there you go. There's a door. Oops. And it'll just be, yeah. And that would be like like a cylinder right there. If I'm correct, I just need to do some more. Yeah. Anyways. And there's a door. Oops. Anyways, I should be doing my homework. I should be doing the homework. Anyways, I'm gonna take a break. Been sitting for a minute and I need to stretch, man. So I'm gonna go ahead and mute and turn off the camera. Just leave this here for now. All right. I'm going on break. Alrighty. I think I'm actually gonna let me see. Oh, let me go bring up TikTok as well. Let's get the cameras in. Camera and camera. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and end the live. Actually, I gotta be up in the morning. I got a few calls. I had a few calls in the morning. I gotta get up to. So I'm gonna end up ending this, and I'm helping out a friend out. He just booked a call. Helping a friend out with credit repair. I know credit repair, so I know a little bit of credit repair, repairing your credits, getting that 800, 600. Well, mostly it's 800 club score, which I haven't got to 800 just yet on my personal credits, but I know how to repair some credit, so I gotta help. Need some help with that. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end this, and let me see what's this right here. So I just got the back. That's pretty much it. And I was looking through the homework assignments that I had. Let me see. So the back is going to be finished by tomorrow. Then we have proportions, and I think I'm gonna do basic forms of drawing. Let me see right here. And this is like action poses. A lot of gesture drawings.
My entire arm, and I'm gonna pull up the middle. Those are all.
And this needs, what is it? This all done on the 11th, and I think the 11th is a
one image here. I named it reference 2. So let's change that to reference 1. You can see I hadn't rasterized this layer, and it was fine. I brought
Sunday
that to about 37%.
So I work the next couple days. So I'm gonna prepare myself for the next live, and yeah, actually, let me look at my calendar for tomorrow. Yeah, I have from 8:45 to 9:45. Oh no, I gotta follow. I gotta do some follow up. So I'm probably gonna end up doing some following up for in about. Let's do some. Actually, I do them tasks. I'm gonna do some following up. Yeah, so from 12, the next time I'm gonna do a live. I got a call at 2:30 2 to 3 p.m. with Grant Cardone's team, and I got 2 conflicting calls, which I'm probably gonna do with the video call. Then I work at 9 o'clock. So I'm going to have to, let me see. Yeah. I'll probably schedule a live noon. I'm gonna do a live noon tomorrow. So for this assignment, you guys are gonna see. You're gonna get the notifications if you're following on Facebook. YouTube. If you guys make sure you go follow me on YouTube. It's Jaron Mitchell. Let me go ahead. Can I put a comment right? Actually, yeah, I can. I'm gonna go ahead and put the. Let me see. Let's go to my YouTube. Let me go to my YouTube real quick so you guys can looking to grow my YouTube, TikTok. I'm not quite there. It's not quite growing just. Hold on. Where is it? There's that share button. Share channel. Copy. So we're gonna do TikTok right here. That's the. I don't know how it works. Oh yeah, I forgot. On TikTok, you go to the link in my bio. You should be able to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Which I'm not sure if you can do scheduling here. Oh, it looks like I can't do that. Whatever. Nobody can click the link. And I'm gonna put that link. Where is it at? Just do a few peeps. Okay. I don't know why I got that in my head, man. So who we got? Let me see. Oh yeah, it's Jaron Mitchell, not Jaron. It's no W in it. Oh, not that. I'm gonna go ahead and put this link up in here with you guys. Actually, I need to use my community. I keep forgetting to use my community. I'm gonna use my community too within YouTube, on Rumble. I'm on Rumble. Rumble, I'm live. I figured that out. Oops. So I'm gonna go. Oh yeah, I gotta go customize. Not customize. Sheesh. Go to manage video. Nope. Wrong one. It's go back. Because what I'm using, it's not letting me get the link here. Let me see. What's the analytics on these lives? One view. All right, let me go. What? That's kind of weird. Why it's not coming up right here? Oh, there it is. Duh. Share channel. Copy. And I'm going to go use a StreamYard and paste that in the comments to all. That's the YouTube. I can delete that comment on YouTube. Everywhere else, oh, it has it on. Oh, yeah, I can do comments on Twitch too. Okay. All right. So, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end it. I am gonna do 2 more lives. It's gonna be probably short lives because I'm doing these challenges. That's another reason I need to get off too. But which is on Facebook and Instagram. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this, you guys. Po folks, it's not where we at, it's where we come from. Well, it's not a lot. Pay Facebook. That's why I say on my podcast. Always create like a God. You're the master of your fate. You're the captain of your soul. You are made in the image of God. Take full possession of your own mind and always create like a God.